Welcome to the first Toon Under podcast of the new Premier League season. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for Newcastle United, and we're feeling good after our first opening day home victory in 10 years since we beat Spurs in 2012. Craig sent through earlier that it's the first home victory on opening day that we've kept a clean sheet for 20 years since we beat West Ham 4-0 in that Le Mans Loire game. So it was a pretty good one for us. I am Jack in Brisbane, and I've got Mark also in Brisbane. How are you, Mark?
I'm doing absolutely fantastically after that result. Nothing like celebrating a win with a podcast.
And a nice little weekend away in Noosa for
you. And a nice
little
weekend away as well, yeah, which is always good.
It's been a good weekend. And we've got Bobby in an absolutely freezing Ballarat. How are you doing, Bobby?
Yeah, doing well. Very, very happy after that performance. So, yeah, good thing to talk about.
I did say before that we're feeling good. Obviously, that's a reference to the War Flags display. But to be perfectly honest, I'm glad we weren't doing this podcast last night. It's Monday night now, but I'm glad we weren't doing it on Sunday night. Because despite the results, I was not feeling good after that sleep deprivation. Oh, my daughter's just learned how to sleep through the night pretty well. But then she just decided for the first match of the season, which I've been looking forward to for like 8 weeks, that she would wake up at about half time. So I was kind of like battling between getting her back to sleep, and then she didn't go to sleep till about 4 o'clock. So I had a couple of hours afterwards. I was absolutely wrecked. And then I just crashed yesterday afternoon for 3 hours, which is very unlike me. But it was well worth it for the results. It was absolutely really fantastic game, a fantastic result. We've come a long way, Bobby, since that Watford podcast we did, where we've just thrown away the lead, and we were staring down the barrel of relegation at that time, weren't we? But what are your kind of overriding sort of feelings and emotions after that game, Bobby, for that result?
For me, it was a mixture of relief, because I suppose I'm still ingrained with what the past 14 years has given us. And you just ran through some stats about, the first time we won an opening day in 10 years and the first time we've kept a clean sheet in 20. And I think that's what, going into the game, my worry was like. But then part of it was excitement, because this is a new Newcastle. Eddie Howe is such a good manager, and the way he's got the boys playing is just phenomenal. The high press, we didn't give Forest a chance. Didn't matter who had the ball or what they were doing. They panicked because of our pressure, and it was just so awesome to see. It just reaffirmed that the end of last year wasn't a fluke, and we can look forward to this year, not look behind us.
Yeah, something to build on. Mark, what about you? What's your overriding feeling after that game?
If I'm completely honest, I had a little bit of mixed emotions about that game. I was absolutely buzzing over the result. The performance was fantastic up until a certain point. And then there was just those little moments where you think, yeah, we could do better and we should do better. And I think what the overarching theme of the summer has been is we need to get those attacking reinforcements in. And I think we saw that in this game, that the amount of dominance that we had in midfield, the amount of chances we were creating, the comfortableness of the defense as a whole, I think we were well in control, and we probably could have won by a lot more had we had that little bit more cutting edge up front. And so I'm sure we'll cover that in the game. But yeah, but overall, just, first game of the season is great to have football back. And to come away with all 3 points, first game of the season, we're in the top 6, and we'll take that every day of the week.
I've refused to get the league table up for this, because I just think until we've played like maybe 4 games, the league table is just pointless, isn't it, till then? But yeah, I saw that we're just off top spot in alphabetical order, so the Champions League pushes on. But how important do you think, Bobby, it was just to get off to a winning start in the context of everything else that's happening with, struggles in the transfer market to reinforce the attacking positions? How important was it for us to get that win against Forest?
It was vital because we talk about a new dawn. We haven't started that seasons that well, so to start well, but also you talk about our fan base is a bit edgy at the moment because I think we all identify, like Mark stated, that we need attacking reinforcements. We need an out-and-out better winger that can create, and we need backup for Callum Wilson because we kept talking about if he's injured, then we're going to struggle. But if he's out of form, which for the first 65 minutes it looked like he was, we had no threat up top. So just to win, just to get that, it sort of calmed the nerves of the fan base, I think, and everyone's positive. Like Mark, I think it just depends on what your expectations are for the year of us. If people that have expectations of top 6, I think are really antsy at the moment about that attacking. But if you've got top 10 aspirations, I think you're a little bit more relaxed. And the thing that really, the overall thing for me that was so impressive was how calm our players were. Like they didn't panic. Everyone else was panicking at about the 65th minute or whatever it was before we scored. But the players didn't. It was like they just knew it'll come, and that's a sign of an established top half good team. Where that leads to in the table, we'll see.
And that comes from the manager as well. And we're going to talk about Eddie in a little bit because of his new contract, but also his effect on this game and his coaching staff. But in terms of the occasion itself, obviously none of us were there, but Dimmy was there. Our Toon Under Pod member took time out from his honeymoon in Greece to fly over to Newcastle. I think he was in Newcastle for something like 36 hours, if that. He wasn't there even there for a full day, I don't think. But he was messaging us when he was in the Strawberry at about 11 o'clock, and then he met a couple of my friends in the Bodiga pub, which was my old haunt before the game, and he had an absolute blinder, didn't he? So we're looking forward to getting him back when he's back from his honeymoon, if he's still married after that little jaunt.
we must leave him alone now that he's actually finally with his wife.
Up. but it was one of those, like Mark, you were lucky to go to the Arsenal game, and I think Dimmy has been so lucky to go to this game. They're two real memorable occasions, I think, in the city, in the town, and for Dimmy to experience that. But what about the war flags again before the game, Mark? It looked pretty good, didn't it, on the TV?
Yeah, another huge display. I think we all expected it. I mean, we've seen it in pre-season as well. They had some really good displays even for the pre-season games at St James's Park. So it's nice to see those flags back again. And we summed up what the main banner said, but there was plenty of others throughout the stadium that day. And it's nice to see all the fans getting in on it as well. It's probably easy for them to just get blasé about it after a couple of games with it, but it is definitely bringing the atmosphere of the ground up, and everyone's loving it. So all credit to those boys who are doing that. I've seen a few of them interviewed before. Absolutely huge effort every single game, and it just seems to be growing every single time. Every time you see it, there's more and more flags out, which I didn't think would be possible after the Arsenal game.
And it's like it's still going from the takeover day, really, from that crazy game against Spurs, where all this pent-up emotion was released, and it was released too quickly onto the pitch, and then the players just shot their load straight away and couldn't handle Spurs for the rest of that game. But it's a more kind of controlled sort of emotion now that they're riding on, isn't it? And the Arsenal game looked like that, and then yesterday looked like that again. So they need to keep trying to harness that if they can. I think everybody knows how good the Newcastle fans are, and it's there for the whole world to see at the moment. So,
I put a tweet out the other day where people were getting excited about the atmosphere and how good the players have done. But I think every single person associated with the club, that's manager, players, coaching staff, owners, and the fans, are all fully committed to just doing the best we can. It's like,
Mm.
I think the vast majority of fans, that there is that, that, well, maybe we finish top half, maybe we might snatch a European spot, but we're all just kind of in it for the ride, and we're giving everything towards, wherever we end up, we'll end up, but we're not going to sort of die trying. We're going to give it everything.
Mm. For the first time in a long time, it is Newcastle United, isn't it? Everybody is pulling in the same direction. Probably for the first time since probably like 2007, just after Mike Ashley took over, before it all very quickly went downhill. The whole club is pulling together in the same direction, and it's a really powerful force. And I think we're going to see that every other Saturday, every other weekend on the TV from Australia.
I don't think I've seen this togetherness since the Keegan days. I think even under Bobby, it was good, but it wasn't as, I don't know, like high octane togetherness as it is right now. I think this is sort of similar to when I first fell in love with the club under Keegan. I thought this was the club that it is. But so it's a very special place at the moment.
Not to mention, of course, under Sir Bobby, we had the infamous punch up on the field between two of our players. So we can't exactly tick the box that everyone was seeing eye to eye then.
There's very valid comparisons with the entertainer era and with Kevin Keegan, and the manager Eddie Howe signed a new. They just said it was a long-term contract. It kind of, I don't know, because it was the middle of the night for us, but it felt like it went under the radar a little bit, maybe. I don't know. I'm well on the record as saying how much I love Eddie Howe, and I think it was the right call to give him a new contract. I think he was given 2.5 years, maybe, to begin with. It was probably never in doubt. But Mark, you were talking a bit in the group chat earlier about Eddie Howe. What is it about him, do you think, that makes him such a good fit for Newcastle at the moment?
I think, first of all, obviously, you've got your Eddie Howe shirt on in celebration, so that's good to see. I found it interesting, before I answer that when he was pushed on the length of the contract, he was very sheepish about answering the exact length of that contract. So it'd be interesting to see exactly what it is and whether or not maybe there's some like rolling contract elements behind that. Obviously, he was not on a great salary. I think that was something that a lot of people did point out comparatively to a lot of the other Premier League managers. So hopefully, he's got that bit of a pay rise and a longer term deal to keep him happy, keep his staff happy, and keep that progress going. But what I've been so amazed about is not just the fact that he's got the players playing well, not just the fact that he seems to have a very good sort of forward-thinking, attacking mentality within the game, but not reckless, but like giving sort of good press up high up the pitch to put pressure on the opposition, to force mistakes, to give us the ball back in good areas of the pitch. Not just that he's got everyone fit and raring to go, because, let's be fair, he didn't exactly have a high bar to measure up to at the beginning of his career, but he's just so assured in what he does. And when you listen to the guy interviewed, he's calm, he's collected, he answers the responses properly. He clearly has a good idea of what's happening. He always ticks the right boxes in terms of what the fans would want to hear. And there's definitely things where he said, we want the fans to dare to dream again and things like that, where, the fans are going to lap that up, but he's backing it up on the pitch at the moment. And he's clearly got all the players like playing their socks off for their positions, but for him and the fans as well. And that's really good to see, especially when we're getting these, it's easy to say, oh, look, we sort of started Bruno on the bench and, we wanted him straight in. He's doing the same with Botman now. He's taking that calm and assured approach about making sure people are aware that if you play well, you're going to keep your position. And he's just generating that culture within the club. And I think that's the thing. It's a culture inside the club that is just breeding a togetherness, that all the players are fighting in the same direction, all pulling in the same direction. It's great to see.
There's a quote from him from halftime, actually, or what he said about halftime, which I'll talk about a bit later. But it just sums up what you were just saying there about his calmness and his balanced approach. Bobby, why do you think he wasn't? They haven't announced the length of this contract. That felt a bit weird to me. I don't know what that was about.
I think we're going to have to get used to this in the way that our ownership will conduct their business. There'll be a lot of things coming out of nowhere, like the Eddie Howe news. No one even thought it was, a couple of journalists said, "Oh, I heard it was in the works, but didn't know when it was going to happen." But they didn't report once on it. And I think this is going to keep happening. I think we're going to be very secretive. We're going to be very in-house, and that's just the way it is. I don't think there's anything untoward about it or something that's out of the ordinary. It's just this is the way it'll be from now on for Newcastle. It'll be in-house. You don't need to know the contract length. You don't need to know the ins and out of his contract. It's just going to add speculation to a lot of other stuff. So I think just we got to get used to it as fans and go from there.
And I wondered if it was something to do with, because he's so good, and they probably know that eventually big clubs or even countries are going to come calling. England's the one I'm really thinking of in the future for him. And he, at the minute, he's growing with the club, and that's a really important thing. He's not coming in as some guy who's won loads of trophies, but he's going to grow with the club. And he was at Bournemouth for however many years, so he's got that loyalty about him as well. But I was just wondering if that contract length not being disclosed was maybe about, not letting the FA know what his contract is. So how much they might have to pay him out if they do eventually want him.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly the way to do business as well. Like, we'll keep our in-house stuff to ourselves and you guys can figure it out. And it eventually gets out because agents talk and all that stuff. But the media don't have to speculate, oh, look, it's a 6-year deal. This is huge. Or how poor is Newcastle for giving him a 6-year deal? And it just takes it all out. It is what it is. It's a long-term deal. Let's move on.
We're all scarred from Alan Pardew's 8-year deal, which I think
he finished that yet?
Last year. Oh my God. Oh, brings shivers down your spine, doesn't it? I think that Emery turning us down is actually the biggest stroke of luck that these new owners have had so far. We all got excited about that prospect because he's won 11 trophies. But, there was talk at the time that half of the board actually were more impressed by Eddie. And my sort of concerns about him, whether he had the kind of force of character to do this job, have been dispelled. But basically within his first press conference, he was so impressive. And we're just so lucky. We're so lucky to have somebody of his caliber as a manager and as a coach, but also as a human. I
think me and you, Jack, when we got the news that it was Eddie Howe, spent about a week
watching videos,
reading videos and reading stuff, and we were talking to each other a lot about it, and we just grew excitement from that. But you're right. I think Emery's a top class manager. I was very excited to get him in, but I wonder how he would have gone in a relegation fight. Whereas I think Eddie, his calmness proved to be, the key characteristic that got us out of the mess.
Right club at the right time, I think. So let's hope that this carries on for a very long time. We're going to have a very quick break and we'll get into the details of the match. All right then, so first lineups of the season, first 11 picked by Eddie Howe and his coaching staff. There was a couple of sort of questions before the game about how we might line up. Mark, I'll come to you for this one. Was there anything in there that you were particularly surprised about, or anything you think is worth picking up from the starting 11?
I think the obvious ones were Lascelles on the bench as captain. I think that was always a big call to make, and I think obviously Dimmy's going to be happy with that one. And then the other two, I think, would be Nick Pope starting over Dubravka. I think it's pretty much nailed on that Nick Pope's going to be number one now, despite not having the number one jersey. It'll be interesting to see how Dubravka handles that, I think. I think he wants to be number one, but it's good to have that competition. And as long as they're both on board with that, I think Eddie Howe was quite vocal after the game in his post-match interview to express that he's got some good keepers and everyone's kind of in the mix. And then obviously the big talking point is the fact that Botman was on the bench. He didn't start with him. Very, very similar to how Bruno was handled in his first few games. So bring him in gently, give him some game time at the end. But apart from that, I think everyone else was kind of picking themselves, especially after preseason. I think that was probably our strongest side.
I think if you looked at the preseason games as well, it did point towards Byrne and Shaw playing together at centre back, and like you just said, you did that with Bruno to absolutely brilliant effect. Even though there was people after 3 games saying Bruno's unhappy and he wants to leave because he's not getting a game. I think there's absolutely no doubt that Botman will be in as first choice centre back at some point soon. Yeah. But if you look at the teams from last season, ever since Byrne signed, it was mostly him and Shaw at the back. And they were basically really good, apart from there was the anomaly against Spurs, and City put quite a few past us as well. But, they were really good. So I think, like you said, Howe gives players the shirt and he says, go and play until prove that you deserve to keep the shirt. And that's what happened. I don't think Botman will be putting a transfer request in anytime soon anyway, put it that way. Anything else in there, Bobby, that stuck out for you?
No, look, I think I've been banging on this drum about since the end of last season that our keeper position was one we needed fixing. And I think Pope just ticks all the boxes for how he's that sweeper keeper. And if we're going to press high, he came out of his box a few times and just cleaned up messes and stuff like that. And he just fits. So I do worry about the long-term position of Dubravka in our squad. I think there is noises from Dubravka's agent that if he doesn't become, first choice, he might want to leave and all that sort of thing. So I wasn't surprised with Nick Pope in. Nothing really surprised me in that lineup. As you said, I'm a massive Botman fan, but you pointed to it, Jack, that in pre-season it was always Shaw and Byrne, and we know that Shaw's first picked as a defender. So that was always going to be, you don't break up those two for now. And the only other one was Willock and Longstaff, I think. Yeah. People had Longstaff in because of his pre-season, but Willock I thought was fantastic. So that was the only other one that I sort of looked at.
It's probably the case that if it was a different game against a stronger opposition, Longstaff probably would have played. But we already knew that we needed attacking players on. We were going to have to work hard to break Forest down. So it wasn't too much of a surprise to see Willock get a start. And 9 subs as well. So the Premier League has now introduced this 5 sub rule, which I just think is
terrible.
I hate it. I cannot stand the way that they've done that. I know they've been doing that on the continent ever since COVID, but to me, it's just pandering to basically to Jurgen Klopp and to the other big team managers who've got two full squads of internationals to call on. And I just think it's, we might have that at some point in the future, but I think it's disgraceful, really. But that's where we are. Football sometimes does things that we don't like, but
so now because of Klopp, we're going to have all pitches wet now. Is that the case?
Yeah, that was his latest excuse. I used to like him so much, and now he just winds me up all the time.
He just whines constantly.
But it does mean that we might, get the chance to see players like Anderson. He didn't come on in this game, but we might get to see him when we otherwise might not have with 9 subs. So it gives managers more options, I suppose. So they'll adapt to it and they'll get on with it. But looking at that team, it's pretty strong, especially in a game against Forest. And we're quite clear now that 4-3-3 or this kind of system is what we're going to be playing. We'll talk about how we did play in a bit, but let's just have a little look at the Forest team as well. Jack Colback played. we were talking to Rich, the Forest fan, beforehand, and we were talking about the Ginger Pirlo. But really, when you've got Colback coming up against Bruno and Joelinton, you probably know that you're going to be in for you didn't play too badly, actually, but you probably know you're going to be in for you're going to be in for a big game. But Forest have just got so many new players, haven't they, here, Bobby, to trying to assimilate into their team with basically no time to do so.
Yeah, and a lot of them were on the bench who, they would view as their first team, but they obviously got them in late and they're trying to integrate them with the squad. So, they did buy pretty well. Like, I know a lot of the players from the Bundesliga, and I think they're very solid players, and they'll be Premier League talent, but just integrating, into the squad and making sure they're ready, because they were horrendous. They've got a long way to go. But, Lingard didn't do much, and I was a bit worried about him and Brennan Johnson with their pace, but didn't offer much.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I thought Niakate at the back played quite well. He made a few good blocks, and Henderson did most of what he had to do really well. There was obviously no way he was going to save either of the goals, and he was obviously pretty busy. But you look at sort of the other results of the promoted teams. Fulham got a really good draw against Liverpool, and Bournemouth beat Villa. They both had home games, but they can be tricky, can't they? Opening games against promoted clubs who've usually come up with a little bit of momentum.
It's that carrying the momentum. They're obviously all a bit excited and keen to go. I thought Forest, to be honest, probably shot themselves in the foot a little bit because they seemed very nervous. It seemed like they were very aware of the fact that they were back in the big time, and they needed to kind of get off to a good start and prove themselves. And it wasn't to be for them because we did play so well. But there were a lot of little niggly bits in midfield where they just sort of made some sloppy mistakes. They tried to play the ball out from the back a lot, where they just kept giving it away really cheaply. But how much of that's down to them being nervous and not being comfortable on the ball? Some of it's going to be that they're incorporating new players to the team. Others, just the fact that we're putting so much pressure on them that they're probably not used to. And I think I'd be reluctant to say that we're off to the races because we've just beaten a newly promoted side. I think it's still early days to be getting carried away, but I think Forest, they credit to them, they didn't let their head go down. They still kept trying for the whole game. And I don't think they're going to be the only team this season that we put a lot of pressure on and cause some issues for.
Well, we did exactly the same thing in the last home game against Arsenal, against much stronger opposition. Arsenal were chasing Champions League at that point. So I said to Rich and the Forest fan that, I don't think they've got anything to be so kind of ashamed of about this game. It's not the first time we've done this to teams, and it won't be the last, I think, this season. We've only been beaten at home by City and Liverpool since Eddie Howe came in. So our home form has been phenomenal, this year in 2022. Yeah. So it was always going to be a tough ask for Forest, and with the atmosphere the way it was. But yeah, the first kind of the tone was set for the game in the first kind of 10 minutes, where we had 4 corners. And then we'd had another 2 corners by 20 minutes. We absolutely swarmed them from the very beginning. And there was real pressure and real intensity, especially from Miggy. I think Miggy really stood out in the first 20 minutes. And then Maxi was really putting a shift in as well. He was very noticeable early on. And he was picking some passes actually at good times. So that's obviously something that we've picked up from pre-season as well. But yeah, Bobby, what was kind of your thoughts on the first 20 minutes of the game there?
All my panic about the game eased off after 20 minutes. I thought, no. I was sort of panicking about us not scoring and getting beat on the counter, but I think our midfield 3 just made me just so relaxed. I thought, Jolit, Bruno and Willock bossed it from the opening minute and just continued, and Forest just didn't know what they were doing with with those 3. So, just full on, like we've been hearing about this full press that Eddie wants to incorporate, and us having more of the ball, and we definitely saw that, and it was a new Newcastle, and it was good to see. And I think Miggy was very, very good up until the finishing. I think he frustrates still with his reluctance to use his right foot.
Just have a go with your right foot. The commentary was hilarious. Just use your right foot.
He gets in the right spots. He hounds. He's a vital part of the team, to be honest. He just needs to finish. And I think that's the story of what our season will be.
And he's got a good relationship going with Bruno as well now. So Bruno was playing we're going to talk about him again later on, but some of the passes he was playing, oh my God.
Oh, Craig Hope just said that we shouldn't get carried away with Bruno because he didn't penetrate. And I thought I saw about 4 or 5 times he actually put Miggy into space. So I don't know what penetrating... What
I could think of 2 off the top of my head without even thinking.
I want to know what Craig Hope thinks penetration is, because I don't, he's I don't. That was a weird comment by him, but Bruno's special.
But Maxi was looking pretty good as well, Mark, wasn't he? You've picked up that in pre-season he's been passing a little bit more. Maybe he's actually taken on board a bit of the coaching that he's getting.
He definitely looks to get his head up, and he's bringing players in more. He seems to be kind of getting more into the rhythm of the game to draw players to him in order to then pass to other people, rather than think that, oh, well, now I've got 3 players in front of me, so I'll better do something special and then lose the ball. He's giving the ball away to a teammate before that even becomes an issue. So really, really good to see that from him. There's still little moments. Obviously, Callum Wilson may have slightly different words to describe his passing ability, given that he was absolutely in acres of space in the box with St. Maximin deciding to shoot instead, which was probably one of the bad times of the game, I think, where the decision making wasn't quite right. But these are split-second decisions at that point in the game. But in the general build-up, he seems so much more comfortable with passing the ball off and bringing teammates into the game. So that's really, really good to see. Still bags of skill, still going to take players on for fun, still going to sort of create some space for himself and for other people. It's really good to see him kind of progress that game on.
And it was Forest, promoted team. So a lot of their players hadn't played Premier League before, but I feel sorry for the defenders sometimes. When he's in the mood like that, you just think, how are you going to defend against this? He looks really good. But he had go on.
It's just nice that he's not our only attacking outlet anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, if this was Forest under Steve Bruce, it would have been like everyone just pass it to Maxi try to get through them, and that was the game plan. And we had 4 or 5 different avenues to go through now that worried for us. So good on Maxi. I think he wants to be here, obviously. And so he's conforming and trying to be part of a team rather than being part. And, that's not his fault either. That was the instruction from the previous coach. So to wind that out of his game, full credit to him.
And he gives fans Rolexes apparently as well.
He gave his watch away, but he's going to benefit from having better players who creating more space, and Bruno's passing. He's going to be a beneficiary of that. 26 minutes, he had a good chance with a header, which he missed. I think it was Miggy put the ball in and he missed his header. And then 30 minutes, Joe Linton. Oh, him and Bruno passed it around with each other in the midfield. And he just basically ran, really strong run, dribbled through. And then he did what he does. Like, if he could just finish, if he could just sort out it's when he's got time to think, he seems to just panic a bit instead of just playing his kind of natural game. Yeah. And he dragged that one wide. That would have been a brilliant, brilliant goal. But like we saw with last season, his goal against Brentford, both goals against Brentford were instinctive goals, and then both against Norwich were as well. Yeah. It's not where he had like time to think and then dragged it wide, but at least that's something that can be coached, that's something that will hopefully be coached into him, because if it is, he could score 10 goals a season from that midfield.
Well, he had two really good chances in that game alone.
Yeah, he seems to have good chances on almost every game because all-around play and his strength is just something to behold.
I think the thing about Joe, he's learning a new craft as well. So he's probably not doing the striking thing anymore at training. He's trying to learn this midfield craft. So, his shooting's not going to get any better at the time being, but hopefully that does improve.
Yeah. And then there was another chance where Bruno did one of his, even though he can't penetrate, he did one of his slide rule passes through to Miggy, which the keeper then put behind for a corner. But that was Bruno. Bruno was kind of getting his hands on the game then and taking it by the scruff of the neck. But at half time, it was surprising. It was a bit disappointing that we were going in at 0-0. We'd had 65% possession. We'd had 14 shots, 6 on target. We were basically just dominating through the midfield. We were just dominating the whole game. Forest couldn't even pass it out without kind of making mistakes. And a couple of times Miggy's pressing forced them into mistakes. So this is where like people might say, well, Forest played badly, but I think any team would probably struggle with us playing that well and that coordinated. And I don't know if you heard Frank Lampard saying that he was asked a question about the pre-season and why Everton were tired. And then he blamed the international friendlies in June as well. And he obviously just hadn't seen highlights of this game because, full pre-season and Eddie Howe would coach these players into a cohesive pressing unit. And Eddie said himself that it won't always be like this. It was everything kind of clicked on the day. But we still hadn't scored a goal. So few nerves at halftime, Bobby.
Yeah, definitely. It was that attacking three, like we need, the need for another winger and the need for another striker. I thought Wilson was poor in the first half. I thought he was not running to the right spots. I thought he was lazy, in stark contrast to how he played against Arsenal. He was up for it against Arsenal, but this game he was just all over the place. And I pointed that out and I thought, well, you can't really sub him off for poor form and put Wood on. So we don't really have anything. So, definitely at halftime, I was a bit worried that this was going to be one of those games that we keep knocking at the door and get no answers. And then it gets in behind and we lose this one. So, I was really impressed by the way we were playing, like you say, but just a bit worried that we couldn't score.
Yeah. What about you, Mark? Did you think it was going to be one of those days?
Yeah, I think if you're that dominant in the first half and don't end up scoring, there's always that thing in the back of your mind. This is going to be one of those days. We're going to batter the door down for 90 minutes, and then they're going to score the winner in injury time in the second half. But I agree with Bobby. I thought Callum Wilson, and we'll get on to his goal in the second half, but I felt he was very much on the back foot for most of the first half. There was times where there were balls being put into the box where you just feel, where are you? Like you're normally there on those sorts of balls in, or there's a ricochet out. I think Joe Linton had a fairly hard shot. The keeper parried it straight out, and there was no Newcastle players around. And normally that's where Wilson's going to be sort of like hovering around. So whether or not he's just not quite used to the fact that people are passing to him now, and he's actually got players actually trying to set chances up for him, I don't know. But he was definitely sort of reluctant to sort of be anticipatory. He wasn't really making those runs that he would normally make, and it did show in the first half. But cannot fault the effort. I think, as you said, look, it's all right. It's easy saying that Forest have not played well, but we put pressure on them to force those errors. I don't see any team being comfortable playing the ball around at the back when they've got people with the pace of St. Maximin, who did his best. He did his bit to to push on and create those pressures. Miggy's obviously going to be sort of running around like a whippet all day, as he normally does. It was good to see. And then obviously with the midfield, Joe and Willock and Bruno all kind of pushing up as well, there's no space for them to play into. So great first half, but just a little bit disappointing and a little bit worrying going into the second half.
And you were saying that before about the players who managed to stay calm though, even though and actually I was listening to the True Faith podcast. They were talking about how the crowd went a little bit quiet in about 35 minutes when it became, we got ground down a little bit and the crowd got a little bit nervous. But it goes back to what I was saying about Eddie Howe before, because his quote was that he said the main aspect of the halftime team talk was to make sure we didn't lose discipline and search for a goal in a disjointed way. So he recognized obviously that we needed to score a goal, but that message obviously passed on to the players, because when you've got that calm sort of assuredness from the sidelines, that's got to give you confidence. That's just got to make you think. I remember a game against Sunderland 15 years ago or something now. Well, not long ago. It was when Pardew was there. And we went to try and get a goal in a disjointed way. We threw everybody on to try and score. and then they went and scored on the counter attack, and we just completely lost our heads. And that's not going to happen with Eddie. He's very calm, he's very steady, and that transmits onto the pitch. And I think we needed that in the second half. It was a fairly slow start. There was a chance where Miggy could have just basically slid in and scored with his right foot, but he doesn't have a right foot. So
just
that
use
was
your right foot, man.
Yeah, so he missed that. And then Willock and Maxi both had shots saved. There was the one where Maxi, he was set up by Miggy, and he could have. In fairness, it was really quick, so he could have squared it. But at the time, he just had the goalkeeper to beat. So you can kind of understand him taking the shot on in that scenario. Although he could have just poked it across for Wilson to have an open goal as well. So that will maybe come, but. From that move, we got the corner, and quick corners were a feature of the game as well. We took quite a few quick short corners. And eventually it went out to Fabien Laurent Robert Shah, who picked the ball up. He was actually running backwards when he got the ball, and they let him. They'd obviously not watched him against Burnley a few years ago, because they just let him take a touch, take another touch, and then absolutely unleash a rocket in off the post. Bobby, how did you feel?
Yeah, jumped up and down. That's when it went in, because as soon as he got the ball and turned around and started dribbling, I said he's going to shoot here, because he's done it before. And Fabien isn't a typical centre back. He's very. I think we had the stats in our group chat of how attackingly minded he is. So yeah, as soon as he got it and he saw a bit of space, I said he's going to shoot here, but I didn't expect it to go in. And as soon as I saw the net ripple, I thought, yep, that is sensational. So it was needed. Talk about unconventional ways, though. We certainly got a goal in an unconventional way. So it was brilliant to see.
Yeah, it was needed. And Eddie actually said that he was questioning, because it was obvious he was winding up to shoot. Everybody knew he was. And he said he was questioning the decision for him to shoot, because we'd been doing a lot of like little neat, intricate kind of tiki-taka kind of passes around, because we had to, because it was really congested in there. But when you've got a centre back who can just unleash one like that, you've got to make the most of them.
Yeah,
go on.
Go.
I was going to say, I'll always remember that Brentford game last season, where me and you did the review, Mark, where for some reason Fabien Shah was like basically up front. And it wasn't even it was from open play, so it was like, what are you doing there? And then he got the assist for Willock. But Bruce wanted to bomb him out, didn't he, Mark? He was gonna be released.
Yeah, he just. But again, that's just Steve Bruce in a nutshell. It's like, what do you mean? It's a centre half who's comfortable with the ball at his feet and wants to play up the pitch and actually set players up and be involved in play. No, you just get the ball and hoof it long. Of course you do. So yeah, the goal was fantastic. I mean, it's a carbon copy of the one that he scored last season. I bet no other team's going to leave him a bit of space when he gets the ball.
And I will say, I'll admit this: the short corners I hate. I can't stand them. And so when they did that short corner before the goal, I was not impressed. And then it went in, and I forgot all about it. So. Continue doing short corners, Eddie, because you know what you're doing.
We had plenty of corners, but I don't think we actually maximised use of them. I thought our delivery was poor, and I don't think we created any kind of clear-cut chances from those corners until that chance. I think
it was just confusing.
We were quite wasteful. But having said that, still doesn't compare to Nottingham Forest's attempt at a corner.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that.
It's confusing though with the short corners. You've got Dan Burn, in there. You've got some big boys that are, could be on the end of it. We're passing it around outside the box. It's like, just get the ball in there. Let's see what happens. But it worked out in the end.
Forest had a couple of sort of rare forays forward after we scored that goal. We were still completely in control, and I don't think anyone doubted that we were going to win the game at that point. But they had Surridge had a header which went into the ground and then went over the bar, and then they did that corner which you just talked about, Mark, where I was watching that and thinking, what's going on? Where is someone injured or something? Because the camera just showed the goal, and it showed all of our players in the box, and it showed no Forest players. And then the player just looped it in Pope's hands, and they all like rushed forward. It was proper Sunday League style. What was going on? I think they need to get a set piece coach, don't they?
Well, I think their manager's known for those quirky little try to catch other teams out. So obviously it's, some of those are going to come off. Some of them you're going to look foolish, but why not? And the thing was, it's like if you were
this is the Premier League though.
Yeah, I know. And if you're 1-0 up, then fair enough, have another try, kick it off. Or if you're 1-0 down and it's the 90-odd minute in the game, and you're just trying something out of nowhere. But come on, at least try and sort of engineer something a little bit better than that at that point in the game.
It might have worked at Bristol Rovers last year.
Yeah, I was going to say.
James Park.
I'm assuming something like that has worked at some point, but. It's going to need better delivery for one, and I think Premier League teams will just sort of sit and laugh at that, won't they? But and then we went and got the second goal. As you said, Bobby Wilson had been pretty anonymous, and I agree with that. I think him in particular had a pretty disappointing first half, but this is his quality, isn't it? He's scored on each of his last 3 opening games of the season. Obviously, he quite often gets injured not long after that. But I'll admit that I didn't see this goal because I was upstairs trying to get my daughter back to sleep at 1:30 in the morning. But yeah, what was the Bobby, talk us through this goal? What was the kind of feeling about this one?
Yeah, so I mean, again, attacking out wide, and Maxi and Joel Litton did their little interchanges. That I think 2 or 3 minutes they kept doing this same routine where they kept getting the ball and passing to each other, and it was total dominance, but we couldn't break through. And my frustration levels with Wilson was going mad because I think just moments before that, there was a good ball played in the box and he was at the back post instead of being running to the front post where he should have been. And I made a comment in the chat. He's on about a 2 rating at the moment, Wilson. He's absolutely pissing me off. And then he scores an absolute peach. Like lovely that, goal. The touch to get it over Henderson from that angle was just... class. And I mean, that's what a top line striker does. He can have a bad game, but he had a really good moment that, scored a goal. So he's quality. I don't think anyone doubts that Wilson's top of the tree in terms of one of the strikers in the league. He's, a 15 goal a year at least striker if he stays fit. So he can do that. But it was just quality. But I want to talk about Maxi and Joel Litton as well in that passage. It was really, really good interplay, and they've obviously got this understanding and cohesiveness about them now, and it's really good.
Joe Linton's playing kind of central midfield, but he's got kind of license to get forward, but he's also sort of defensive as well. He does all of the defensive work. So we might as well just talk about him now. He seems to be turning, and he's turning into a real world class or real sort of Champions League level central midfielder, I think. Bobby?
Oh, you don't need to convince me.
Yeah.
He's sensational. Like his ability to get his foot to intercept or just break up the play is elite. It's sensational. But then you couple in everything else he provides, and his size and his strength, and he absolutely bullies players. Like anyone, really. He just tosses them aside. And I'll say a statement, but I don't think there's a player like him in the world. I don't think there's another player that's like Joel Litton. And he gives us so much. And I think his importance isn't being reported enough on what he gives our side. And I think he's up there with one of the best midfielders in the world now for me. And, long may it continue.
His performance against Arsenal was remarkable, and that was against real top class opposition. But you don't see many central midfielders now with that kind of physicality, I think, isn't it? They're mainly playing different positions, centre back or up front sometimes. But his attributes are just perfectly, attuned to that position and in this system as well. So his passing is unreal. Yeah. Like he's got that defensive capabilities, but he's also got that attacking capability. So he's the perfect sort of
hybrid midfielder that you've got. And yeah, I don't know any other midfielder that's like him, to be honest.
He's kind of perfect for the Premier League in a way because he's capable of matching the top end teams with the pace and the quality on the ball, but he's physical enough that he's going to be able to be combative in the middle of the park against some of the lower league teams that are going to try and be and sort of bully you off the ball a bit more, and you're not going to do that with him. So you're kind of getting the best of both worlds from him, which is why he's been such a great, a complete revelation for us.
And hopefully he'll be able to keep a check on his, because you want aggression and you want physicality, but you want it to be controlled. You got sent off in pre-season, which is probably good that happened in pre-season. And Tyndall had some words to say to him after that. So hopefully he's learned his lesson from that, and he probably will get sent off at some point this season. But it's a fine line. It's a fine line he walks, and he's an absolute beast. He's an absolute beast in our central midfield,
and he wants to win. He wants to
desperate.
win. Like he's that passionate about making sure we get good results. I mean, we joked about him turning into Patrick Vieira in December or January when it was last season. But he's the only one I can see that's come, got the skill sets to match what Patrick provided. So,
and Vieira got his fair share of red cards as well.
Yeah, I mean, but you need that. You need that passion in there. You need that aggressiveness in there.
It's walking that fine line between, sort of you got to be competitive for everything. You got to mistime things. You're going to kind of go over the edge in competitiveness and sort of, flying off the handle a little bit now and then because a decision doesn't go your way. But, that's what sets players apart. I mean, you look at some of the top end midfielders in Premier League history, and Vieira and probably Roy Keane, two that stand out, where they dominated midfield, led by example, but we're always walking that tightrope of, some days they're going to go off over the other edge, and they're going to see red. But you wouldn't want to tame them down because you lose so much from their game that it's not worth not having that red card incident every now and again.
It's incredible to think it's the same player that we signed who for 2 years was just useless. I know that there were signs that he wasn't a complete donkey, but yeah, it's the turnaround has been amazing, and was something we'll talk about forever probably. Here's the stats, full-time stats: 61% possession, which felt a little bit low to me, but Forest didn't seem to have the ball very much at all. 23 shots to 5, 10 shots on target to 0, 11 corners to 1. Anything surprising there, Mark, or that's pretty much what the game was like?
I felt like we had more corners than that, to be honest.
Yeah.
It seemed like the first half, every time we went up there half, we was getting a corner. I think the shots and the shots on target just sum up the game. I think we were completely dominant. As you said, it felt like we probably had more possession than that, but maybe it's just because we're not used to having that much possession in a game at all. So let alone actually dominating the ball. So yeah, great stats to back up what we felt was a comfortable game.
I think we all agree, don't we, that we need more clinical finishes from somewhere in the pitch, whether that's from midfield or from up front. Bobby, I think we do, don't we? We need somebody to come in who's going to put some of these chances away. If only Miggy could finish, he'd be the perfect player in this system.
If Miggy could finish, he'd be being chased by the likes of Real Madrid, and Barcelona can't register anyone anymore. So
doesn't stop them buying anyone.
But, yeah, exactly. But look, I made a comment during the game that James Maddison in this team would be the absolute. Like, I can understand why we're going for him and why we're contemplating. I think we will put in a third bid for him, from my understanding, and I think it'll be north of 50. And I can see why. You put James Maddison into that team and his creative output, the way he gets around the pitch as well, he'd make us infinitely better. So I think, from the midfield or from attack, I think we need some more clinical finishes in there. But I just wanted to say, how courageous was it of Forest to have one corner and to do that routine, to do one and only corner? I thought they would have had more than one corner, to be honest. That's pretty courageous of them.
They were just trying to confuse us into fallen over or something, so they could just run in and score. It was the fact they just looped it straight to 6'10" Nick Pope as well. I think a couple of I wanted to have a word for the centre backs as well, who, aside from scoring 25-yard screamers, did their job that they had to do brilliantly. It's quite hard sometimes when you probably don't see much action, probably to try and keep that concentration. But the composure that both of them showed, there was a couple of blocks from each of them, which were really good. And I think they both played. Burn and Cher both played really well, and it's going to be that difficult. But Botman will get his chance, and when he gets it, I'm certain he won't be giving it away easily. But yeah, the defenders were good, weren't they?
Oh, look, I wanted to say something about that as well, because Dan Burn, for me, was just so calm and assured on the ball, and he read the play. He's everything you need in your centre half that's just going to break up play, read the game, sort of be in the right place at the right time, not do anything stupid, like not give the ball away. He just ticked all the boxes, and it was like, well, if Botman's there as a supposedly better prospect, then we're in for a treat coming later on in the season when he's in.
You are in
and just
for a treat, Mark.
just as a little comparison, I've just remembered that the starting defense for the first home game of the season was, we had Murphy and Ritchie at wing back, and then we had Kraft, Fernandez, and Clark at centre back.
Yeah,
and we hadn't signed a centre back since 2018, I think it is, when we signed Fernandez. So to now,
promotion season, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. We got Fernandez. Yeah, when we got after we got promoted. Yeah, so to have this strength and depth all of a sudden is a pretty special thing, I think, at the back. And there will be games where it's going to be much harder for them. We've seen Burn has struggled against some of the better opposition when he's had a particular profile of player to play against. But it's just good to have that composure at the back, and it kind of feeds through the rest of the team as well, I think. But let's just talk about the midfield again for a minute. So we've talked about Joe Linton. We do this every podcast, but Bruno, I said to Rich, the Forest fan, before the game, Bruno's a world-class footballer. So to come up against him in your first game back in the Premier League is tough, but he is absolutely phenomenal, isn't he, Bobby? He's just like, there's nothing he can't do in that midfield. He wins the ball. He can do the tricks, but he does the tricks not at silly times like Maxi. He actually does them and they come off. But his main thing is his passing. He wins the ball, and he sees things that other players don't see. And some of his slide rule passes to Miggy, he's got a good understanding with Miggy. We're probably just going to do this every week, but Bruno's phenomenal, isn't he, Bobby?
He's now gone past for me, and it's only been like a handful of games he's actually played and started, but he's gone past Johan Kabay as the best import midfielder I've seen. He's just breathtakingly good. For a pure football fan, as we all are, just marvel at his intricacies, his touches, his passing. Like that one where he just lobbed the player coming at him, like he was standing still and he just lobbed it over his head. I haven't seen that on a football field since Ronaldinho. Honestly, he's just unique. But I said it in one of the pods we did when we were talking about him. I think it was after Norwich. His ability to scan and know where he is on the pitch at all times, and then know where the players are, is the best I've seen. And his futsal background allows him to have those little touches around those players. So all in all, you get this master, and he's going to be, I can't believe he's playing for us, to be honest.
You probably go along with that, Mark. You were on the pod with Andy Sixsmith, who we should get him on every time you want to talk about Bruno.
Yeah, I think he'll be feeling left out if he does watch this one back. He liked his little segue on Bruno, and rightly so. I mean, he's just different gravy, isn't he? I mean, there's good quality midfielders, but he sort of put one pass, like he had an errant pass very, very early on in the game, and then didn't put a foot wrong for the rest of the time he was on there. He picked up passes, he broke up play, he won the ball back. I mean, look, if he can work out his penetration, he's going to be a hell of a player.
I don't think Craig Hope's going to live that tweet down anytime soon.
It'll be deleted by the time we get off this podcast.
So, let's talk about man of the match then. For me, it was a toss-up between. It's always going to be Bruno, basically, but I feel like we can't just give it to him all the time. I think we need to give other players some love. So, I think Joe Linton probably for this one. He got the assist, but just for his all-round dominance, basically. I think this game was dominated in the midfield, and he basically dominated them more or less on his own. He had some help in there, but I think Joe Linton was man of the match. Mark?
Yeah, it's a tough call, Joe or Bruno. I think it's going to be interesting to see which one of them gets the most man of the match awards for the season. To be honest, because they're just such a dominant pairing in that central midfield. Teams are not going to look forward. Even the top teams are not going to look forward to playing against those two. And yeah, I'm going to lean towards Bruno because I just thought he was absolutely magnificent, and we don't want to give it to him every week, but he's just I mean, it's just mind blowing that he's playing for us and he's playing so well, and he's only 24, and yeah, the scary thing is he could easily get much better, and if you put better players in around him, then he's just gonna shine. It's gonna be scary for opposition, I think. So, yeah, look, for me, I think he did enough. I think if we had that little bit of extra quality, I think Bruno leaves that pitch with probably 2 or 3 assists.
Bobby, man of the match.
Yeah, I'm going to give it to Jolinton. I thought he was dominant in his intercepting and everything like that. But as you say, like, hard to split the two. And I think in all our wins, they're the 2 names that we'll keep coming up and we'll keep talking about, and I'm happy to do it.
Me too. Absolutely. So we've got Brighton coming up next. We're going to be doing a preview about that later in the week, and then we've got Man City the week after that. So everything we've kind of said has to be sort of set against the fact that it was Forest. It was promoted team. Not to, no disrespect to them, but we've got much tougher challenges to come. What do you think, Bobby, we can take from this game to take into the sort of the harder challenges we've got coming up in the next couple of weeks against Brighton and Man City?
Yeah, they're definitely going to be tough games. I like Brighton. I think they're a challenger for the top 6. People call me crazy, but I just love the way Potter has them going, and they've got a lot of quality. I think that what we can take in from this game is our pressing and our pressure, and that midfield of ours that will worry Brighton, Man City, Liverpool. It doesn't matter. I think we play like that against anyone will cause them issues. It's just about our worry about clinically finishing. We'll probably get opportunities even against Brighton at Brighton. We've just got to put them away, and that's where my worry comes into it against the better sides. Whether we need to score to win or to draw against those teams, and whether we can do that clinically is another question.
Any final words, Mark, before we wrap up? Anything else or do you just want to talk about Forest corner again?
No, I think the less said about that going forward, the better. I think it's going to be crucial, as Bobby said, is for us to be more clinical with the chances we get. We're not going to get 20-odd shots on goal and 10 shots on target every game. It's just not going to happen. So we do need to take our chances, especially against the bigger teams. They're going to be few and far between against the likes of Man City. I think we've kind of proven that we can compete with teams. I mean, look, let's be honest. Nottingham Forest did sit deep for a lot of that game and were harder to break down. So maybe the fact that you're looking at the likes of Brighton, who are going to be more adventurous going forward, there's more space at the back, so we've got more space for like the likes of Wilson and Almiron to run into. So who knows? But yeah, definitely need to be more clinical. But you've got to take the confidence from this game and just run with it. We just
And let's hope that when the Brighton game comes up, we might have maybe just, even if they don't play, if we've got a signing in, or if we've been really linked with somebody. I think it's the only real thing that's kind of missing from this preseason so far is to get an attacker in, a real quality attacker. And there's reasons behind that, and financial reasons and the difficulty of the market. But let's hope that when Craig and Keegan do the preview on Thursday, there'll be some transfer news to talk about as well. I think that'll just that'll set everybody up for such an exciting start to the season. We've got the first 3 points on the board. We're back, and by next time we'll be a little bit more used to how it feels to not get any sleep. So we'll maybe be able to do the review on the same day next time. But we'll see how it goes. All right, thanks very much, boys. And
Cheers,
we
mate.
will be back later in the week, like I said, for the Brighton preview, and we're doing another watch along for that because it's not televised in the UK. So I will speak to you both soon. Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers, lads.